Jeannie Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we try to bring you information about exciting initiatives that are taking place in our community, and today will be no different. The organization that we're highlighting today is the Interfaith Mission Services, and for over 45 years this agency has been in our community making an impact on people's lives as they work to create that beloved community that Dr. King talked about so much. So I'm delighted to have these individuals here with us today, and let's meet them at this time. Chuck Vedane is with us today, and Chuck is the Vice Chair for the Leadership Council. Welcome to the broadcast.
Well, good. It's good to be here, Kenny. Looking forward to it.
It's good to have you. Sitting next to you is Jeannie Robison. She's the Interim Executive Director of the Interfaith Mission Service. Welcome.
Exactly. Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's good to have you. And sitting next to you is Debbie Esslinger, and Debbie is the Director of Ministry Development for the Interfaith Mission Service. Debbie, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You know, anytime I get a chance to talk about something that's happening with the Interfaith Mission Service, and we'll just say IMS from here on forward, just so that we can keep it nice and compact, but everybody will know what we're talking about. I get really, really excited because I know that things are happening that are meaningful things in the lives of people. And I think that, of course, you all are probably very excited about the information that we're going to share today. So let's start talking about the one thing that we really wanted to focus on, and there may be some other things as well. The Interfaith Mission Service is sponsoring a conference that's coming up the week of November, the 2nd, I believe it is.
Right.
And we want to talk a little bit about what that conference is and why you're doing it. It won't be the first time you've done a conference, but this is something that I think is very significant, especially because of the way you've structured it this year. So talk a little bit about what this conference is and why you're doing it.
Well, let me say that it's something that we've been looking at for many, many years. We've looked at what this cooperative of congregations has done in the years that they've been working together since 1969. And there's been a lot happening, and so we felt like that we ought to be looking at what have we learned in that, and then also other interfaith operations have sprung up over the state and the region. So maybe we could have something that we could put together where we would share lessons learned on how to organize social service agencies or be involved in social justice or race relations and those kinds of matters. And so we chose 2014 to get that ball rolling, and we want to do that every 2 years.
And before we go even further, I just realized we probably want to let people know something about the way IMS is structured anyway, so that they can maybe understand going forward why this conference is happening and why it's set up like it is. So talk about the structure of IMS and how it functions in this community.
Well, it was put together by about 11 congregations back in 68 and 69. Finally really got going in 69. And it came about because congregations had gotten, or folks or members of those congregations had gotten to feeling like we ought to be doing more than what a single congregation is doing. So we eventually found each other and put together a committee to look at, a steering committee to look at how we might get organized and then what we would first try to do. And so that started off in about 1970 when we started putting together Helpline, and then we had a interfaith transportation service, and there was some of the clergy wanted to do counseling, volunteer their services on counseling, so we had a counseling center. So those were the initial start. At the same time, civil rights was quite a topic, and so we then got involved in trying to build bridges among the different groups there. We looked at the makeup of councils and commissions that the city council and county commission would point people to, and did they have balance of diversity and those kinds of things, and then try to talk with the political figures to bring about some changes.
So this is a group of congregations that essentially have come together to focus on actually practicing the gospel and activating people's lives in such a way that needs are being met in tangible, realistic, pragmatic ways, and that those things are being done consistently, and that issues that are relevant issues to people's lives are also being addressed.
Yeah. We ought to really change chairs because you did an excellent job at that.
It's only because I respect the IMS so much. I try to know as much as I can about it.
That's true. I mean, in the whole business of trying to apply theology or apply the value system that you've been learning in Sunday school and worship services, then you really mature, I think, in your understanding of what those values really are. And so it's the old story of action, reflection, and put the theory to work and see how it makes an impact, and then how you grow in your understanding of what it really means.
And Chuck, how long have you been involved with the IMS?
Well, I was representing Trinity United Methodist Church when we first put it together, so I've been involved since '69.
That's a long time.
Right.
And you've obviously dealt with lots of things over the years and seen lots of things, and also probably experienced lots of changes too.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Particularly in the diversity area, because we started off with the Jewish congregation, and then the other 10 were Christian congregations. But now we have a sizable Muslim community, Islam, and Buddhist and Hindu, and so those have become part of this cooperative as well.
Yeah. And I'm sure over the years, as you've worked with various congregations, the number of congregations has gone up or down, or about what number are you working with right now?
Well, we're working, what, Jeannie?
I'd say about 35 right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that number has fluctuated over the years?
It fluctuates, actually, yeah. But that's a little increase over last year, so.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, how do you promote this organization? And I know that there are a lot of things that happen over the course of a year with regards to IMS. We're going to talk about some of those things in a moment, but how would a person who attends a particular congregation know about the IMS?
Well, we have a website, and we always try to send folks to our website, www.interfaithmissionservice, all one word, .org. We also send out a newsletter every Friday, so we encourage people to give us their email address and let us send them a newsletter. And then a lot of it is by word of mouth and different groups coming to learn about IMS through things like our interfaith dialogue. For instance, right now through Learning Quest, which is ordinarily at the library. This time it's being held at Faith Presbyterian Church, but the Learning Quest is hosting us in doing an interfaith dialogue. So it will be 6 weeks of different faith traditions. And people who are in that class, and there are about 30 people in that class, will now know more about Interfaith Mission Service. And that's one of the ways that people learn about us, is attending events like tomorrow night. Well, not tomorrow night, tonight, we will have One Huntsville diversity dinner.
Well, actually, One Huntsville occurs every third
month.
Tuesday
That's right,
of the month,
exactly.
so that people can better have a point of reference, because
Absolutely.
whenever this airs, they may be
that's right.
totally
every
thrown
third
off.
Tuesday. Yeah. And Debbie could talk a little bit about the program for One Huntsville tomorrow night.
Well, just the general, just the general essence of One Huntsville and what it is, because again, when this airs, that one will have passed
well,
probably.
That's true too.
So you just want to, One Huntsville is a great concept. It's a great model for community togetherness and community unity, as some people might say. What is One Huntsville?
One Huntsville is the coming together of anybody and everybody. Everybody's welcome to sit down, eat together, talk together, and then have a program that will make us all the more wiser about the diversity here in Huntsville. It may take a religious turn, it may take a social turn, it may take, anything. The last few have gone anywhere from the Just Faith program, which is a very Christian program, to urban gardening, to the Etowah Prison Visitation Project, which is immigration and things like that. So it's One Huntsville Diversity Dinner, so we feel like if we all sit down, eat together, talk together, then we all become wiser and more empathetic and more in tune with what's going on in the community.
And whoever put this process together was pretty bright, because there's something you can't argue about when it comes to food. I mean, people just kind of come together, they have to eat, and to be able to sit down and break bread and share provides common ground for people to be able to then launch into other arenas of the discussion.
Yeah, somebody I'm sure, Frank Broyles from Faith Presbyterian Church was the one that, and Carrie Holder Joffrey were very instrumental in putting One Huntsville together.
Yeah.
And another thing, sometimes the real great ideas come out of that group, because the idea of having a multicultural office came out of that group, and the group then went to Chattanooga to look at what they had in Chattanooga, and came back here and wrote a proposal, and Mayor Battle set that up.
That's right. Yeah, because I was actually chairing the Race Relations Committee at the time when that discussion came up. And again, we thank everybody that was a part of that process, really focusing on a very progressive community that is very diverse. And we celebrate the international nature of our community, and the fact that so many different people are represented here, and the notion that everyone should have a voice and a place at the table. So, it just seemed like a no-brainer to make that kind of thing happen. And I think it probably has done a lot to really create a city where people are expecting these kinds of activities to take place, and certainly willing to be a part of those kinds of things. And I was just about to point out this Exploring Faith Intersections conference that's taking place. This is November 2nd and the 3rd, being hosted by the Interfaith Mission Service. This is really going to be a great event for people to attend, because it has such a richness and a depth of information sharing. And I wanted you all to talk a little bit about how you designed this conference and what you hope to expect to get from it, and what should people who come expect to take away from the experience.
I'd like to talk about Sunday evening to begin with. We wanted to offer something to the community. It is free of charge. It will be in the new room at Trinity United Methodist Church. It's going to be a wonderful evening. It's going to start at 5 o'clock with an interfaith service that will follow the theme of the Golden Rule, do unto others, living this in the community. Then at 6 o'clock, Brian Stevenson, who is the executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative. It just went out of my head. The Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery will be our keynote speaker, which we have been having people from Just Faith and Laurel Hall, the representatives. Several people have been asking us, could we get Brian Stevenson up here to speak? He has agreed to do so. It's part of his book tour. His new book called Just Mercies will be out by then, and he will be promoting that. But his topic is prison reform, penal system differences, the death penalty, that type thing. So it is open. We have a 1,000-seat auditorium that we hope is filled to capacity that night.
Awesome.
And let me encourage people to learn more about Brian Stevenson. He's a remarkable young man. You can go to EJI, www.EJI, that's equaljusticeinitiative.org, And you can, on the right-hand side, you'll see a number of videos with him. He does a TED Talk, a 23-minute TED Talk, and receives a standing ovation at the end of it. He's been on the Jon Stewart Show. He's been on the Colbert Report. He's just a wonderful speaker with a real passion for justice, and I think he'll do a beautiful job that evening.
Yeah, so you kick it off November 2nd
On
with
November
that event.
2nd, which is Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
Then we pick up on Monday morning, and our keynote speaker, who will speak twice on Monday, is Jim Wallace, whom most people associate with the organization called Sojourners. He's a theologian, an author, a professor, but primarily he's the founder and still the guru at Sojourners. He's an evangelical Christian, but probably you would describe him as a progressive politically. His main idea is how should Christians apply the gospel to the political situation we find ourselves in today. And he's been an advisor to President Obama and Mrs. Obama. So I think he'll be a fascinating speaker. He's written 10 or 11 books. The latest one, the title, let's see, was On God's Side, What Religion Forgets and Politics Hasn't Learned About Serving the Common Good. That's his theme, serving the common good.
Okay. And you've got, beyond your keynote speakers, and you've got one more, I think, but beyond the keynote speakers, a lot of times, I know personally, when I go to a conference, I'm motivated by the keynote speakers. I'm glad to see them. They may be selling a book, or they may be on a national tour of some type, but then they leave.
Right.
And I'm left to do the work. And I've got to figure out a way to work within my community to get the job done. And so you got some small group discussions that are going to be going on as a part of this process also, that I thought was a very important part to focus on as it relates to this conference.
Well, the way we chose the title is sort of how we structured the conference. We were thinking about the intersection of faith and then a number of other things, faith and justice. We thought about faith and science, faith and community, faith and culture. And we winnowed it down for this year, for this conference, to focus on faith and justice, faith and community. How, in other words, does your faith tradition, whatever it is, and almost all the world's great faiths have a rule of reciprocity, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. How does your faith compel you to act in the common good? And so we'll talk about faith and justice. We'll talk about meeting community needs like faith and the community. How important is it to do direct service, but also to look at systemic problems? Why do we still have these problems that we're dealing with in a direct way? Can we do something about the systemic issues? So, and we'll have, in fact, people like Bill McDowell from Second Mile, and we'll have Scott Douglas from the Greater Birmingham Ministries, which is an excellent organization, both of those excellent organizations. And then we'll talk about faith and culture. And under culture, we mean interfaith, all the different faiths that make up our varied tapestry here in Huntsville, and also interracial relations, the racial harmony aspect of it. So those are the three main threads, or the three main intersections.
Faith and community, faith and justice, faith and culture.
Right.
Covering a broad range of topics and applying these principles. As I'm reading this, I'm seeing profiling community needs, relief and beyond, transforming public policy, the role of faith in a public square, creating the beloved community. So you have a number of different topics that you're focusing on.
Yeah, one of the big focal points of this, as you just said, you can go to a lot of conferences and you can get a lot of great ideas and good insight in that, but then you're kind of left figuring out how you're going to apply that. We wanted to have our value added, so to speak, of this is how we have been doing this and how Greater Birmingham Ministries has been doing this. In other words, get down to where the rubber meets the road and have documents that describe how you go about putting an interfaith dialogue together, how you go about putting Daybreak in Alabama series together and do the studies, and how you go about. So we have manuals. We're going to have manuals that will be on display of how you go about doing that. So people who come can take those, and of course they won't apply one-on-one ratio to their city, but they will be be able to be tailored or scaled to that particular city. Then also associated with that, we want to have, well, what has been a little, as much as we can get together anyway, the impact on the city because of these various programs. Now that's, as you know, is a pretty difficult thing to measure, but we want to try to get at that, you know. So it's very practical. That's going to be the very practical side of those workshops that we have then after these panel discussions.
So then who listening this afternoon or this morning or this evening, who is the target audience? Is somebody's listening right now and they're thinking, is this something that really fits me? Is this something that I should do? Who should come to this?
Well, the big target are those people in these congregations that are responsible for these kinds of ministries in their congregation. Because going back to our mission statement, the whole mission statement is to work together so that we can increase the capacity and capability of the individual congregations. So the focal point of the whole Interfaith Mission Service Cooperative is for the congregations to get stronger in their being able to engage the community in what this spectrum of ministries, you know, as Jeannie has said, all the way from direct service and relief kind of work into the systemic work. And that systemic is not only the social justice areas, but how we're going to get along with each other areas, you know, of race and cultures and religions and that. Because as you said earlier, you know, we're kind of an international city, a global city, and the business pursuits are going to have been what have brought that about, and will continue to make this a much more diverse city than what it is right now.
So we often say there's strength in numbers, and so one of the goals of this process is to, if you're in a congregation, to identify yourself as someone who is providing a service, who could benefit from support from others who are doing like things, and that together, everyone working together collectively can make the best difference and the best impact on those needs that people may have. We've got about a minute and a half left in the broadcast. I want people to know where they can get information about the Interfaith Mission Service and where they can get information about the conference, which are one and the same. So where would people go?
Well, to the website, www.interfaithmissionservice, all one word, .org, or you can email us at ims@knology.net, or you can call the office, 256-536-2401. And we would be happy to send you information. We have brochures. We'll send you information on all the work that IMS does, and in particular, you can register online. You can use PayPal to register. And we should say there is October 1st, if you register before October 1st, you get an early discount. And for both days, the early registration is $67 or $55 if you're retired or military or a student.
Okay, well, they can go online and get
Sure,
all of
that
those
information.
particulars and things of that
Absolutely,
nature.
sorry. Yes.
All right, so it's Exploring Faith Intersections. Y'all got a brochure?
Sure we do.
Want everybody to know. We want everybody to see. That's the conference. Exploring Faith Intersections is the conference. Chuck Vedane, thank you very much for being here today.
It's been a pleasure, Kenny.
Jeannie Robison, thank you for being here.
Thank
Debbie
you.
Esslinger, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kenny.
We want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast today, and we hope that you'll join us for our next edition of Impact. In the meantime, we hope that you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.